What is going on, everybody? So I hope you can lock in for this video. It's going to be a bit of a longer one, but it's going to be super valuable and you're going to learn a lot, hopefully. So last week we did week one looking at all the booster boxes. We looked at the supply basically on the secondary market. And I will explain the chart again, and we have a couple additions here. So in the set column, Romance Dawn, we put in the white bottom now. We separated it from blue bottom. Market price is coming from TCG Player. We're looking at a 20% increase of that as well. And we're basically trying to get an idea how many booster boxes are listed on eBay below this 20% increase, how many sold in the past week, we get a daily average, and then try and get an average of how many days left of inventory there is if there weren't any more boxes added to the market. I also don't count cases or any sealed displays of anything if those sell, but loose boxes, opened cases, we count all of those, and it's not really relevant. Sealed cases of one-piece booster boxes don't sell too often on eBay. But getting into this, you guys can look up here and look at last week if you're curious about anything going on there. We will touch on that towards the end of the video just to see some discrepancies between last week and this week for certain sets. Down here in week two, you can see some text is going to be green, some is blue. If it's green, means that the booster box price went up last week. Red means it went down, and white bottom obviously wasn't in last week, so we didn't give it a color. So starting off, we have Romance Dawn blue bottoms, and TCG Player. These are definitely quite far behind the blue bottom and white bottom in terms of pricing. White bottom should probably be closer to like 430, 440 at this point. Blue bottom probably closer to 14-ish hundred. So TCG Player is quite far behind. Because on eBay, you can see a 20% leg up would be 1435 for blue bottoms and 473 for white bottoms. There are 0 boxes listed for either of those below that 20% leg up from the current market price. And they're selling about 2 boxes a week, so 0.29 boxes per day. Again, so we can't get good values in anything because there are no boxes. But I guess we can look at lowest listed. Blue bottom, $1,500 right now, plus $72 for delivery without tax as well. So you're probably over $1,600 if you want to buy this on eBay at this point. The lowest blue bottom currently listed is $475 plus $48 for delivery. As you guys know, I did buy a second white bottom booster box of Romance Dawn, which should be here tomorrow, I believe. I also linked one in last night's video to Cardboard Hero. I believe someone picked one up. That was one of the only sites in Canada that had them still at 500 Canadian, which is like the cheapest price you can find for a white bottom currently. Next up, we have Paramount War up to $231.97, so up a decent amount from last week. There are 70 booster boxes listed on the market below $278.36, which would be a 20% leg up. 3 boxes sold last week, so 0.43 boxes daily average there, which means there's 162.79 days of remaining inventory on eBay. So what changed this week? Well, the first thing is that there's a lot more supply on the market. Last week there were 50 boxes. Now we have 70 below this leg up. It doesn't mean more were added, but it means that maybe there were more towards that higher end, and now that the boxes come into the 230s, that's going to be part of that average. Now, the sales volume is down a little bit from last week. So yeah, we really do have to follow this over multiple weeks, right, to get a better idea of how many boxes are selling on a monthly basis. Week to week, you will notice some changes in this that are probably important to denote, but I wouldn't worry about this, and I wouldn't think that 163 days of inventory remaining is accurate. It's probably, in reality, going to be lower than that. At some point, we'll see that sales volume kick back up. But for now, based on this week's data, that was like the second highest amount of inventory remaining in terms of days left. Next up, Pillars of Strength, $218.18, up from $213.46 last week. There's 26 boxes listed below $261.82, and they're selling at 1 box per day. So 7 boxes sold last week, meaning there are 26 days of inventory left for Pillars of Strength. And we did talk about this in last week's video. I think Paramount War and Pillars of Strength are going to be fairly dead money for a while. I don't think it's going to take as long for these to move as something like Royal Blood, which we'll get to later in this video. But I wouldn't be expecting these to move up into like the 250, 260 or even higher range over the next couple months. I think it's going to take a while to burn through this next wave of inventory, if that makes sense. Next up, we have Kingdoms of Intrigue, about $171.32 on TCG Player, which is definitely up from last week's like 156-ish range. 24 boxes listed on eBay below $205.58, which would be a 20% leg up, selling 1.14 boxes per day. So I believe there was 8 that sold last week. That means there's 21.05 days of inventory remaining for Kingdoms of Intrigue, which basically halves its inventory from last week. And a lot of that's probably just come from the sales volume increasing, because there is a fairly similar amount of boxes listed on the open market, minus like the ones. So it really doesn't look like there's been more boxes replenished. Again, we moved up a little bit, so those boxes could have already been on eBay, but the ratio is staying about the same there for Kingdoms of Intrigue. Now we have some interesting sets coming up. Awakening of the New Era up to $253.03. That is definitely the big winner of the week. This is pretty much an all-time high, I believe, for the box. Getting close, like maybe May of last year, around 258 on TCG Player, but getting very close, up 10% or more on the week. 65 boxes currently listed on eBay below a 20% leg up, which would be around $303, $304 USD. Selling at 1.71 boxes per day, which is down because last week, if you remember, it was the fastest selling box at 3 boxes per day. So that has dropped a bit as the box price has gone up. And that means there's about 38 days of inventory remaining. And this kind of makes sense. I think this box probably shouldn't spike fast into like the 300-ish range. I think there's still a decent amount out there, but it's good to see that it chewed through that like low 200 supply. Now it's going to find a new equilibrium around that 250, 240, maybe even up to 260-ish range over the next 60 or so days. Wings of the Captain up to $146, so not a huge move there. 28 boxes listed below 175.32, and they're selling at 1.14 boxes per day, meaning there's about 24 and a half days of inventory remaining on the open market. Now, guys, before we look at the rest of the boxes, I just want to jump in here and say 73.5% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you're getting some value, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit subscribe. That's all I'm going to say. Next up, 500 years in the future, around $109. $109.10 is what I had it marked at. These TCG Player graphs do update a fair amount throughout the day. So a little bit off since I put this in the spreadsheet. 21 boxes listed below $130.92. Selling at 0.71 boxes a day is about a month worth of inventory. And if you guys remember, OPO 7 was one of the lowest last week at about 12 days worth of inventory. They had 12 boxes listed, selling at 1 a day. So we've seen an increase in the amount of boxes before a 20% leg up. Again, those could have already been on eBay just because the boxes slightly moved up in value, I guess only a cent. So maybe that's just been added inventory. That would make more sense now. Next up, 2 Legends. I don't know why I have this in green because actually it should be in red. The box was down a little bit on the week. There are 92 boxes listed in stock below $114.79, which is a pretty large decrease in supply. Last week there was 145 boxes in stock below $115.51. So definitely less supply out there. 1.29 boxes selling a day, which has slowed down a little bit. It was at 1.57 last week. And that means there's about 71 days of inventory remaining for 2 Legends. This makes sense intuitively. I think 2 Legends kind of dead. People don't really enjoy the set. It's kind of sandwiched in between a lot of good sets too. You have OPO 9 to one side, and then you have OPO 5, OPO 6, even OPO 7's like way better than OPO 8. So it's really sandwiched between better sets on both sides there. Next up, we have Emperors in the New World OPO 9. I think this box is still undervalued in the 180s, but up to 187, almost 10% move this week. There are 48 boxes listed below $225 USD, selling at 3.71 boxes per day. That is the fastest selling box this week for any One Piece booster box. And you can see, this graph is just going straight up, guys. People love the set. They love the Gold Roger chase, the Luffy chase, all the other mangas, and very interesting cards in there. Definitely worth the open and the investment. And that means there's 12.94 days left of inventory. And I think this will probably continue to stay fairly low. until we get a reprint. I imagine more people will add supply, especially as we move into that like 200, 220-ish range. People will start moving some boxes then, but I don't think we're going to see a massive flood of this box onto the market anytime soon unless Bandai reprints it. And next up, we have Royal Blood OP10. This box is down a decent amount, over 10% from last week. And again, guys, this is just going to be dead money. Like, don't buy OP10 right now looking at it as an investment. There are currently 364 boxes listed on eBay below $106.80, which would be a 20% leg up from TCG player price. Selling at 1.71 boxes a day, so not terrible sell-through rate there. But that's still 212.87 days of inventory remaining before we see a leg up. And you can see, I think Football Pete has a lot of boxes in stock, like over 300 of them. I'm pretty sure it was him selling them. So there is just like a race to the bottom on OP10 right now. People just don't want to be holding this. And it's not super popular, right? Like Emperors of the New World, which is more than double the price, is selling more than twice as fast too. So it really is just not that great of a set. I wouldn't be buying OP10 right now. Maybe if you could get it around $70 a box or something, you wanted to buy one sealed case, I think that would be fine. Just know that you're going to be sitting on it quite a while before it sees any appreciation. And then next up, we're just going to look at the specialty sets, I guess. I don't really think they're specialty sets, but just coming from Pokemon, that's what I'm going to call them. Anyways, we have the extra booster and then the premium booster. We'll start with EB01, down to $317.59 this week. It doesn't sell too often on TCG Player. A 20% leg up would be around $381. There is only 9 boxes listed below that price point on eBay, and I believe only 2 sold last week, so 0.29 boxes per day. That's 31 days of inventory. So really, there just aren't that many boxes listed on eBay, and they don't sell that often, especially at this price. And if you're considering buying EB01, you're basically doing it in the hopes that long term, like 5-10 years down the road, this game, One Piece in general, is still going to be here. It's probably going to be bigger than it is now. That is your hope, and that this box is going to be so rare that you will be able to get a premium. Because outside that Chopper card, which is a decent chase, right? Like we see sets in Pokemon where there is one solid chase card, and that will kind of carry a box. You won't see it be the best box in an era or whatever, but it could be a respectable box. I kind of think about Silver Tempest, maybe you have the Lugia in there. I know you have the Rayquaza and a couple other cards, but it really is that Lugia that carries the set. So I kind of imagine that is the thought process for a lot of people if they are buying this box right now as an investment. Personally, I don't have any EB01. I'm not going to be buying at this price. But I do think long term, especially if this game succeeds, it will be a very expensive box. So maybe it is worth getting a little exposure. And then finally, PRB01, the premium booster, 23 boxes listed below 333. It's up to $280, which is a decent move, around 5%, maybe a little bit less, or maybe a little bit more. No, a little bit less than that. Than 5%, but 23 boxes listed below 333, selling at 1 box a day, which means there are 23 days of inventory for PRB01 on eBay. And one thing to point out about PRB01 and this price here, this 336, after, because it's 23 boxes under 336, but it's really also 23 boxes below about $400 because it jumps from around 334, 335 right up to 399 USD. So there's a massive gap there where there are no boxes. And I imagine with time, someone will probably slide a box in there somewhere around the 360, 370 range, maybe even a tiny bit lower than that. But for now, if all those boxes sold below 335, 336, it would jump right up to 339 in terms of lowest listed on eBay. And that's pretty much the list for this week, guys. Again, when we look at the days of inventory remaining, take these numbers with a grain of salt because a lot of One Piece boxes just don't sell that often on the open market like EB01. Also, some other boxes here like Paramount War, these Romance Dawns, they are slowing down. And that is going to skew some of these numbers. For example, Paramount War up to 162 days. I just don't think that is a super accurate number, but maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe we just see a lot more boxes hit the market over the next few weeks. But we will track this. The things that stick out to me are that there still isn't a ton of Romance Dawn listed below like 1500 for blue bottoms, and then around, I don't know, like $450-ish dollars, around that range, $500 for white bottoms. That's kind of where we're at on the secondary market at this point. Outside that, PRBO1 is still selling at a decent rate despite its price, and there isn't a huge supply of boxes out there, at least in North America. EBO1, same deal. It's slowing down in terms of sales volume. It doesn't sell as often as PRBO1, so we shouldn't look into it as much, but there still isn't a lot of boxes out there before large price increases there. OP10, just dead money. I still think Paramount War and Pillars of Strength, OPO2, OPO3, those boxes are kind of going to be dead money for a while. Two Legends, same deal, OPO8. All those boxes I would not be touching right now unless you're getting a very good deal on a sealed case. I wouldn't be buying them. I would still be focusing on trying to get good deals for Awakening of the New Era, OPO5, OPO9, especially if you can get a good decent deal on that, like 12.94 days is not a lot of inventory on the secondary market for a newer box, and especially when it's selling at a rate of 3.71 boxes per day. That is quite high for one piece. But you guys let me know in the comments down below what you think, and if you are shopping TCG Player, eBay, Hobbiesville, Cardboard Hero, I now have an affiliate link for it as well. If you guys are shopping on any of these sites, feel free to use the affiliate link. It's free and easy to use. I get a small kickback from it, so it helps me keep making these videos for free if you guys feel like supporting the channel. If not, no worries. Thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.